Good morning, readers. This is our story for today for Project Day, and it is called Off to Class Incredible and Unusual Schools Around the World by Susan Hughes. So let's find out about these incredible and unusual schools. Remember, there is a question attached to this book for Read Aloud. I'd like for you to after hearing all of these different countries and what is so incredible and unusual about these schools, I want you to notice and write down which one was the most unusual and incredible for you and why. All right, so let's begin. So, chapter one, working with the environment. All the things that we do and the places that we go, including the schools where kids learn, are connected to Earth and its environment. Environmental problems like climate change, severe storms, natural disasters, and shortages of energy and other resources can make it pretty tough to build new schools, to get to them, or to keep old ones standing. More and more schools are teaching students how to reduce their impact on the planet. And more schools are being built to be environmentally sustainable. Sustainability is a way of building and living that meets people's needs now while having enough resources, including things like clean air and water for people in the future. In a lot of cases, building sustainably also costs less money. And that goes a long way towards building more schools and getting more kids off to class around the world. So, education for everyone. You've probably heard a million times that school is important. It is. And not just because it can help you get your dream job someday. Education gives people power. It gives them the knowledge they need to make good decisions. It gives them a voice to demand that their government do a better job. It gives them the confidence and the skills to change the world around them. Education is so important that the United Nations says it's a basic human right. Missing out. Unfortunately, just because education is considered a human right, that doesn't mean every kid gets to go to school. According to UNICEF, there are more than 100 million children around the world who have never been to school. Most of these kids live in developing countries where there isn't always enough money and resources to build schools. Even when there are schools, millions of kids still get left out. In some cases, it's because their families live too far away from the schools or because they can't afford to send the children to class instead of work. In other cases, the kids aren't allowed to go to school because of their gender, their background, or their citizenship. And it's not just kids in developing countries who get left behind. Kids in developed countries live in all kinds of circumstances that can make it tough to go to school the traditional way. Some kids live in remote areas or in areas hit by natural disasters. Some have special physical needs. Others find it hard to learn in traditional classroom following traditional lessons. Finding the answers. The good news is that many amazing people around the world aren't willing to sit back and let kids miss out on an education. These people are asking, why do we need to create? What do we need to create so these kids living here in these conditions can learn? And then, more important, they're answering the question by creating incredible schools like the ones in this book. Water, water, everywhere. In Bangladesh, students can miss months of school during monsoon season when heavy rains cause floods. Even when schools are open, it can be impossible for kids to get to them. Climate change is making the flooding even more extreme by melting glaciers in the Himalayan mountains. The runoff swells rivers and makes them overflow their banks. The floods damage farms, schools, and other buildings. In the past few years, thousands of schools have been damaged and hundreds have been destroyed completely. Unsinkable schools. After seeing many of his friends and family members in Bangladesh miss out on an education, an architect named Mohammad Rezwan decided he was not going to let floods stop any more children from getting to school. He figured that the best way to beat the rising waters is to rise with them on a boat. I thought that if the children cannot come to the school, then the school should come to them. He explains. He raised enough money to open the first school boat in 2002. Now there are 90 boats that travel along 250 kilometers or 155-mile stretch of rivers and streams in northwestern Bangladesh, giving thousands of kids a chance to learn. Ahoy, classmates! Boat school is a combination of a school bus and a schoolhouse, says Mohammed. 6 days a week, each boat stops at different villages along the shore, picking up children who are mostly in the same grade. When the classroom is full, about 30 to 35 students, the work begins. For 3 hours, the students have lessons in math, reading, writing, English, Bengali, the environment, and conservation. Then the boat returns all the students to their riverbank stops. From there, the boat moves on to pick up another set of students for another 3 hour lesson. Each boat offers 3 sets of lessons a day. Wireless waves. Even though the boats float from place to place, they have electricity to run up to 4 computers, a printer, a DVD player, a CD player. Solar panels on the roof provide all the electricity that they need. The boats are connected to the internet through wireless technology. Besides all the modern technologies, the boats also stock hundreds of books. So, this fact here says all the school boats are built locally using materials found in the region. Many have flat bottoms so they can glide through the shallow waters and over flooded lands. All aboard. If it weren't for the boats coming to pick up the children on their doorsteps, many young girls might not be going to school at all. Their parents wouldn't let them travel out of the village to the nearest government school because they believe the journey is dangerous. Also, it takes them away from their chores for too long. Now that the boat schools come to them, the girls have time to both learn and work. The next one is protecting the Amazon. Messias lives on the remote village of Sisuaxu, deep in the Brazilian rainforest. His village is on the banks of Rio Negro, and the only way to get there is by boat. To get to the closest city, Manaus, takes 5 days by canoe or 30 to 40 hours by speedboat. Until recently, the village was virtually cut off from the rest of the world. There was no electricity and no phones. Without electricity or a connection to the outside world, the villagers found it hard to earn a living without turning to illegal hunting, trapping, or lodging. The tiny one room school offered only basic primary school up to about grade 3. If students in the village wanted to go further in school, they had to move to Manaus, a window to the world. In 2002, everything changed. Working with a group called the Solar Electric Light Fund, SELF, the villagers bought in solar panels, computers, a satellite system, and wireless internet equipment. They built a new school to house the panels and computer equipment. The internet opens up a whole new world of possibility for the school and its students. They could access Brazil's online learning program, which gives them the chance to get a high school education without having to leave their village. And they had access to a whole world of information right in their classroom without the need for expensive textbooks. Today, the students in Sixuao learn to work with computers, digital cameras, and the internet. They connect with schools and students around the world. Adults use the school in the evenings to take online classes. They also book eco tours and run e commerce businesses selling locally made crafts. Learning from the forest. Chris Clark helped set up the school, which has changed what and how it teaches over the years. He says the main challenges for the kids were always the remoteness with the fact that the curriculum is invented in urban Sao Paulo, the largest city in Brazil. It bears no resemblance to their reality. Now, our kids create some of their own material. We are trying to create a more relevant curriculum with subjects like forestry, forestry management, climate change, and ecosystems. The school has helped the community gain a whole new appreciation for the reserve and its importance in the world. Since families no longer have to move to the city for their kids to finish school, they're able to stay on the reserve and help protect the forest that they love. So the fact here is the Siksuau Sikbarinya Ecological Reserve is owned and run by the Cambokla, one of Brazil's native peoples. This untouched rainforest is home to countless plants and animal species. So, this is the little boy we read about. My name is Messias, and I am 10 years old. I live in the village in the middle of the rainforest. In my village, there are few houses surrounded by the jungle, which has lots of animals and birds. We go fishing in canoes built by the people here in the village. There is a crocodile in the village port. At my school, there are 19 children ranging in age from 4 to 16 years old. We all study in the same classroom. We have wireless internet and a computer. We study mathematics, the Portuguese language, history, natural sciences, and geography. And very often we talk about conservation. We learn not to throw rubbish into the river, not to kill the animals, and not to cut down trees unnecessarily. I like my class. My classmates, my teacher, and I like being in the middle of the forest and breathing clean air. A spot of green in a desert. Students in Shea in the Lakta region of India live high up in the Himalayan mountains in one of the harshest environments on earth, a high altitude desert. For half of the year or longer, severe winter weather closes the mountain roads and cuts off the Ladakh from the rest of India. There are few resources and limited electricity. Lakta is also prone to earthquakes. It doesn't sound like the easiest place to build a school, does it? But the people of Lakta had strong motivation for building a school. They were afraid that without a place to teach their children, they would lose their culture forever. Ladakh is unique in India, which is largely Hindu, because its people are mostly Buddhists of the Tibetan descent, sustaining a way of life. The Jerk White Lotus School was built to help sustain the Buddhist way of life in Lakta. For centuries, the Lakhi people's isolation protected their culture and their language, Bothi, from outside influences. Later, parents wanted their children to get an education, but there were few local schools. Children were sent away to boarding schools where they were taught other languages and exposed to other cultures and values. It began to look like the tradition of the Ladakhi culture and way of life might be lost. The answer was to build a local school that blended the Tibetan Buddhist culture with modern technology and learning, giving its students and their community the best of both worlds. Sustaining the environment. The lack of resources and electricity combined with the Buddhist belief to do no harm shaped the school's sustainable design. Construction and day to day operation. The school uses very little energy and creates little pollution. Solar panels provide all the school's electricity. The thick walls are designed to trap the sun's heat and keep the school warm, even in the middle of winter. To avoid trucking materials over long distances, the school was built with local materials including grass, timber, poplar, and mud bricks. The granite walls were made from stones found on or near the site. The architects who designed the school also used some traditional building methods. After all, many hand constructed buildings in the area have survived earthquakes and harsh weather for hundreds of years. So here's a fact. To show the connection between the school, the community, and the world, the school's buildings are arranged in a circular shape of a religious symbol called a mandala. To the Buddhist, the mandala represents the unity of all things. New ideas for old resources. Sometimes, solving a seemingly impossible problem just takes a fresh way of thinking about it. That was the case in Gando, Burkina Faso, where the village school was about to collapse in 1999. Without it, kids would have to walk for hours to the closest school or stop going altogether. There was no money to repair the old concrete school, and building a new one seemed out of the question. But not to Diabeko Kere, an architect who grew up in Gando. He had been studying architecture in Germany and believed that Gando had everything it needed to build a new school. It wouldn't be easy. The village had no electricity, few resources, and no money to buy what was needed. But the biggest challenge would be convincing the villagers that clay, the one resource they had plenty of, could be used to build a sturdy school. The villagers had given up on building with clay long ago because the rainy season damaged and destroyed clay buildings. They'd been building with expensive imported concrete for years, following designs brought from places with cooler climates that weren't suited for Gondol's hot temperatures. Smart design. The old concrete and tin school was dark and hot inside, according to DeBeto. It was like a room to bake bread, not to teach some not to teach somebody. He wanted the new school to be comfortable, a place where the students would want to be. Diablo came up with sorry, imaginative ways to make a new school naturally bright and cool without air conditioning, fans, or lights. His design was so impressive it won awards around the world. Build a better school, builds a better life. With lots of hard work, Diabedo made his dream of building a school to sustain his community a reality. Since 2001, Gando's villagers have built an additional in addition with public library and teachers housing. More than 800 students attend the school today. And with the new construction skills they learned building their school, Gando's villagers are earning money working on projects in other towns. Following Gando's lead, other communities are building sustainable schools and houses using clay bricks. Fact. Diabido designs an unusual roof for the school. It is raised off the ceiling, leaving a gap where the hot air can escape from inside the school. It also allows cool breezes to blow in. The wide overhang helps shade the school from the sun so it stays cooler. High wings bring high hopes. On August 29th, 2005, Hurricane Katrina ripped into the city of New Orleans with intense winds, pounding rain, and a storm surge 6.7 meters or 22 feet high. By the time the storm receded, 80% of the city was flooded, more than 1,800 people had died, and entire neighborhoods were destroyed, including over 100 schools. Crisis equals opportunity. New Orleans was determined to come back stronger than ever after the storm. Katrina destroyed many schools that were old, crumbling, and underfunded. The city took the opportunity to rebuild stronger schools that would serve the students better. The new schools are designed to survive future storms with roofs and windows that can withstand winds up to 130 miles per hour. They are built above the ground so that they'll stay dry even if the city floods again. But even more exciting is the fact that the schools aren't just protected from the environment. The schools and their students will be working to protect it. An edible schoolyard. Imagine growing some of the food you eat right in your schoolyard. It would be cool to have such a close connection to what you eat, right? That's something most students, especially in the heart of a big city, never get the chance to experience. But students at a few schools in New Orleans, including the Arthur Ashe Charter School, are reconnecting with the land by getting their hands dirty in the edible schoolyard. They have a chance to plant, grow, and harvest organic fruits and vegetables, compost waste, and care for a wetland area and butterfly garden. Students also learn about healthy and sustainable eating by cooking food from their garden and local farmers markets in the teaching kitchen, sorry. As they munch on fresh, locally raised foods instead of food that is processed and shipped from far away. Students experience firsthand how they can reduce their impact on the environment. Besides that, class lessons have never tasted so good. My name is Jerome, and I live in New Orleans. I am 10 years old. I like the garden at Arthur Ashe. I help create a wetland area and plant fruits and vegetables. I also help to dig flower beds and to weed them. I like it because after we finish growing the food, we can harvest it and eat it. Sometimes we can take it home. I've taken home eggplants, satsumas, and onions. In New Orleans, we waste a lot of food. Also, people waste gas because food is shipped in from other states. If we all had gardens, we wouldn't have to ship in as much food. Our school is moving into a new building. I like this school, but it is very old and small. The new school will be awesome. It will be good to have somewhere with grass where we can play. Also, the garden will be bigger. Not everyone gets a chance to work in the garden here. In the new school, more students will be able to learn about gardening and cooking. Fact: Hurricane Katrina forced about 372,000 students from Louisiana and Mississippi to leave their homes. And that's all I'm going to read for today. You guys can finish reading Every Day is Earth Day and Out of the Rubble on your own. So, which one of these schools did you find most incredible and unusual? Answer in the chat or discuss with your teacher in your classroom. All right, until next time, bye, friends.